Have you ever had that strange feeling that you were born in the wrong era? Like you were thrown into this world by mistake? Into a family that doesn't understand you? A system that suffocates you? A time that doesn't speak your language? Well, here's the thing. This isn't drama or delusion. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist who understood the human soul like no one else, revealed something deeply unsettling, and it might explain that feeling with eerie precision. According to him, certain patterns of synchronicity don't just shape the events of our lives, they also reveal when a soul incarnates out of its natural time. Yes, there's a real possibility that you arrived before your time, and that changes everything. The most shocking part? No one ever told you this. Not school, not religion, not therapy. Because admitting that someone can incarnate in the wrong time would shake the very foundations of everything we've been taught about existence. And that's exactly why this message is so unsettling, because it reveals a truth that's been silenced. The universe doesn't make mistakes, but sometimes it moves plans forward. And you might be one of them. If you feel like you have a mission but live in confusion, if the world feels too loud for your sensitivity, if you dream of things no one else understands, maybe it's time to stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "Why did I come early?" And in this video, you're going to understand exactly that. We're going to decode together the signs from the universe that point to an out-of-time incarnation, how to interpret the synchronicities that appear when you're on the verge of awakening, and why all of this might mean the world isn't rejecting you. It's actually waiting for you to remember who you are. But before we go any further, take a deep breath and get ready, because after hearing this, you won't be able to pretend you don't know anymore. Some people go their entire lives carrying a strange feeling, like they parachuted into a world that doesn't make sense. From childhood, they notice they don't quite fit in. Not in school conversations, not in family rules, and definitely not in society's expectations. And no matter how hard they try to conform, the discomfort only grows. It's like wearing clothes that weren't made for you, too tight in some places, too loose in others, and exhausting. Carl Jung called this identifying with the archetype of the outsider, the one who walks between worlds but never fully belongs to any. What if, instead of seeing this as a flaw, we started recognizing it as a sign? This feeling of being out of place isn't new. In fact, many great thinkers, artists, and mystics have experienced it. Jung believed that this kind of deep unrest could be a sign that the soul is more connected to the collective unconscious than to the surface patterns of society. It's as if you came from a different place, carrying ancient codes that are hard to translate into the language of the modern world. That's why people like this often feel an existential void, even when everything looks fine on the outside. That void might actually be the beginning of a calling, a nudge from the universe saying, "Hey, there's something bigger here. Look again." Want a practical example? If you've tried every path you were told to follow, college, career, marriage, routine, and still feel like something's missing, maybe it's time to look inward, not outward. A great starting point is diving into books like Man and His Symbols by Jung or A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. These works help decode that sense of strangeness as part of a legitimate spiritual journey, not a personality flaw. And once you realize that this discomfort is actually a code, you begin preparing for something much deeper. Carl Jung was one of the first to challenge the idea that everything in life happens by chance. He introduced the concept of synchronicity to explain those incredibly precise and meaningful coincidences, the kind that make it impossible to believe they were random. When something happens at the exact moment you think about it, feel it, or are searching for it, it's as if the universe is responding, not with words, but with events. Now imagine this. If small synchronicities already carry so much meaning, what about your incarnation? Could the exact moment you were born also hold one of these secret codes? Jung believed that the soul arrives in this world already carrying symbolic baggage. Your birth, your name, the date, even the environment you grew up in. All of it could be filled with signs from the universe about who you are and what you came here to do. It's not an exaggeration to say that even the hospital where you were born might hold hidden meaning when viewed through the lens of synchronicity. Psychological astrology, for example, which Jung studied deeply, is based on the idea that your birth chart reveals the soul's psychic potential and also outlines the symbolic stage it chose to begin its mission. To put this into practice, start by examining the patterns that constantly repeat in your life. What kinds of people do you attract? What themes keep resurfacing in your challenges? Which dates mark major turning points in your story? Writing down these events and looking for symbolic connections between them could reveal more about your incarnation than years of trying to fit in ever could. And the wildest part? Realizing that the mistake you thought you made, that detour, that choice, that pain, might actually have been a direct response from the universe, a clue, an invitation. And what if that invitation is asking you to discover what exactly? Not every soul arrives here at the ideal moment. Sometimes incarnation happens with a slight advance, as if the cosmic clock let things slip just a second too soon, and that changes everything. You're born into a time that doesn't yet understand your language, surrounded by people who can't recognize your frequency. The result? A constant feeling of not belonging. But Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And here lies the paradox. You might be exactly where you need to be, even if you feel completely out of place. There are souls that, due to urgent karmic cycles, ancestral trauma, or collective missions, end up incarnating before their natural time of vibrational maturity. It's like planting a seed out of season. It may still grow, but the environment will always feel a bit hostile. The child who speaks like an adult, the teen who feels emotionally exhausted for no reason, the adult who carries a sense of mission they can't quite name. These are common signs of someone who arrived too early. The most important thing to understand is that this is not a punishment, it's a spiritual strategy. And sometimes even a chosen sacrifice. Want a practical example? Think of people who, from a very young age, were forced to grow up too fast. Kids who were caring for siblings at age 10, dealing with illness in the family, or carrying emotional burdens far beyond their years. Many of them, instead of breaking, awaken. They become healers, leaders, mentors, but not without first facing the pain of feeling out of sync with the world. That sensation of being early may be the first sign that your soul is in a hurry. And every urgency carries a code. Now, what happens when that code starts revealing itself in the details? There are signs that don't scream, they whisper. And once you learn how to listen, you realize the universe never stopped sending you messages. If you constantly feel out of sync, like you see things before others do, like you understand pain no one around you can grasp, maybe you're not crazy. Maybe you're awake. Carl Jung drew attention to these meaningful events with no causal connection but full of purpose. Synchronicities. They not only reveal your alignment with the universe, they also expose when your soul has arrived too early. Some signs show up repeatedly. You feel exhausted even at a young age, as if your soul has lived more than your body. The feeling of being an old, wise soul in a rushed world. You look at society's patterns and simply can't relate. The obsession with ego, materialism, urgency. Instead, you seek meaning, stillness, depth. Another clue? Recurring dreams about past eras, memories that don't feel like yours, encounters with people who seem to already know you. These are spiritual codes that suggest your incarnation may have been premature. But it wasn't a mistake. Want to know how to spot these signs in real life? Keep a synchronicity journal. Write down every weird coincidence, every repeated number, every thought that turned into a real event. Reflect on feelings of déjà vu, unexpected encounters that changed your path, or that strong intuition you ignored, only to later realize it was right. These are the universe's nudges, its way of reminding you that something bigger is at play. And when these signs start showing up more often and with more intensity, maybe the universe is getting ready to reveal why all of this is happening now. There comes a moment when the pain of feeling out of place stops being a burden and starts to reveal itself as a calling. A calling to live differently, to think differently, to break free from patterns. Jung once said that what disturbs us most is often the beginning of transformation. What looks like a mistake may actually be the map to your awakening. And maybe your greatest struggle, not fitting in, is exactly the tool the universe is using to nudge you and say, you didn't come here to fit in, you came to transform. What once felt like a crisis becomes a code. Transcending this discomfort takes courage. The courage to stop conforming and start listening to yourself. The courage to say no to routines that numb you, and yes to everything that lights up your soul. Feel like creating something? Create. Want to help people? Start with one. Curious about spirituality, depth psychology, or synchronicity? Go explore. A soul that incarnated before its time needs spiritual nourishment to stay balanced in this world. And that includes meditation, connection with nature, art, and conversations with those who vibrate on the same frequency. It's not a luxury, it's vibrational survival. Here's a good exercise to begin with. Make a list of everything you've always felt but never had the courage to take seriously. The things that called to you early on but were silenced by fear or judgment. Then, pick one item from that list and commit to it, even if it's just reading a book, writing a letter, or starting a daily practice. The sense of not belonging isn't a mistake. It's your gift. It's your soul's GPS pointing you toward where you're meant to go. And when you start moving in that direction, synchronicities shift. The universe's signs become clearer, and suddenly everything starts to make sense. Now tell me, after everything you've heard here, are you still going to treat that feeling of not belonging as just a random mistake? Will you keep ignoring the signs from the universe, thinking it's all in your head? Or will you finally accept that there's something much greater at work behind every detail, and that you were chosen to awaken to this new reality? Because from now on, you already know, every synchronicity that appears on your path is an invitation. An invitation to move beyond the surface and dive into a deeper level of consciousness. So tell me in the comments, what's the most powerful sign you've ever received? What number, dream, or unexplainable feeling has been echoing in your mind? What pattern did you recognize in today's video? And more importantly, what are you going to do with that? Will you act on it or let it slip by? Because when you write, you activate, and when you share, you inspire others who are going through the same process, but haven't yet realized what's happening. Sometimes your comment is the exact key someone else needs to wake up. And if this video shook something inside you, if deep down you felt something click, like something started to move within you, don't let that pass you by. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss more content that will help you understand your incarnation, your synchronicities, and the calling only you can answer. Because the next video might be exactly what you need to finally make it all make sense, and you won't want to miss that.